Again, I'm George Vanetis with Main Street, Oakland County. Welcome to our digital marketing series. This is the second out of four programs that we're doing. The title of this digital marketing program is called Website Tracking for Business Growth. We have a couple exciting speakers today. Let me introduce to you Brendan Hunt from Pitch Black Media in Ferndale. And Brendan is going to do the majority of the speaking today, and I will be the moderator. So I want to ask, the program's going to be about 40 minutes, and then we'll have a couple of breaks where we can ask any questions that you have. I request that you put them in the chat, and then we'll have one or two breaks during the presentation to answer a few questions. And then at the end of the presentation, we're going to leave a good 12 minutes, maybe even 15 minutes for some Q&A also. Okay, so those are the rules. Put your questions in the chat, and then during the two breaks during the presentation, we'll answer a few of them. And at the end of the presentation, at about 9:40, 9:45, we'll get to the other questions. Okay. This presentation is being recorded, so we will be able to send this to you in a few days once the program is completed, and everybody that has been on the program, we will email you the recording. Okay, fair enough? Okay, so thank you for coming, and I'm real excited to continue on with our digital marketing series. This is the second one. It's called, again, the Digital Marketing Workshop, virtual workshop. This one is on website tracking for business growth. And Brendan Hunt, who is the marketing manager for Pitch Black in Ferndale. Brendan has a great career. He started with several years with Google, developing search engine optimization. He also worked with search engine marketing strategies for companies, nonprofits, and agencies. He's learned a lot from the best in the industry. And then right now, Brendan, he likes doing a lot with dissecting analytics with large variety of clients from different industries and different sizes. And at Pitch Black, he really conceptualizes, he develops, he implements innovative solutions that maximize brand awareness, increase profitability, and expanding market share. So without any further ado, I'm going to introduce to you the speaker, Brendan Hunt.
Hey, thanks, George. Appreciate that intro. Yeah, so we'll just kind of jump right into it. I wanted to give a brief overview of kind of what we'll be talking about, what we'll be going through. I just want to start off basically talking about website tracking. So we'll start at a very beginner-friendly level, walk through what some of Google Analytics looks like, what some of the reporting looks like, how you can use it for your business, so how that can help with marketing, and other aspects as well. And then at a certain point, we'll switch over kind of in the middle to an intermediate level. So you'll see we'll go into a little bit more detail, maybe a deeper dive into some things. So if you are on the intermediate level, some of this beginner stuff you may have already heard that I'll walk through. But I think it'll all be valuable, and really want to try to help you understand tracking for your business and just how to really integrate it and make it easy for you. So diving right in, I think the system that we recommend is Google Analytics 4 for most people. I think that's going to fit for small to medium businesses. That's going to fit most needs. The great thing is that it's free, so there's no additional cost for it. It's a one-time code installation that you'll put on your website. So we're not going to go through today specifically how to install that, just because there are a myriad of different ways to install, depending on if you're on WordPress, if you're on a Wix website, just whatever you're on. So the installation process will totally depend on what your setup has. Now, once you do have it set up, you're going to see something like this when you log in. So if you don't have any data, you might only have 1 or 2 days worth of data. If it's a new account, that's fine, but it'll continue to grow and keep that data as your account is active. So this is a partner that George introduced us to, Revelation Wellness. So it's someone that we've just been, introduced to through the program through Oakland County to kind of showcase a real world example of use cases for them. So we went in and helped them get set up with just your standard tracking, getting some event tracking set up, those types of things. So I'll walk through some of that as well in this account. One of the main pages, and I'll jump back and forth to kind of my slides and then interacting with it as well. But one of the main pages that I think most people are going to want to look at when you get in here are a few different main things. One is going to be your search sources. So where's your traffic coming from? That's going to give you a lot of good information as far as, was my Facebook campaign successful? The amount of information, that we're putting out in our blogs, is that bringing in traffic? Those types of things. So where you're going to check that out is you're going to come over here to this left-hand sidebar and select reports. Now, this section will look different for a lot of people based on the selections that you make when you're setting up your account. So you might have different choices here, different options than you see on my screen, but you will still have these options as well. So you want to come under acquisition. That's going to give you all of your information as far as where your users are coming from. So a good place to start is user acquisition. And really, this is going to give you data as far as organic, social, direct. They typed in your URL directly and came to your site. Organic search, so that's going to give you an idea for, are you showing up on Google, Bing, those types of things. These are very broad, high level first user group channels. So really high level look. If you want a more specific breakdown of where your traffic's coming from, you can click this here, go to first user source medium. Now that's going to change it and give you specifically where they're coming from. So did that traffic come from Facebook? It was a referral from Facebook. Was that Google? And then was it organic or was it paid? Being organic or paid, so you can get an idea of, if you've got Google Ads campaigns, you'll see those listed in here as well. So you'll get an idea of, are your marketing campaigns for Facebook successful? Are your Google Ads campaigns successful? And then all the way down to, you can see this Google organic, for instance, something that really stands out here, a minute 41 compared to all the other time on site. So you can really gauge, like, okay, maybe we need to work more on this Google organic, get in more of this traffic, because it's clearly valuable traffic. They're staying on the site longer than most people. They're visiting more pages than most. So, really good stats. That's somewhere we might want to focus. So really quick information that you can gather to see the successes there. Another report that we'll talk about is going to be just kind of the user journey and funnel. So where are they going on your site? How are they interacting with it? Really, so when you get to a website, you want to know, was your user there for more than 4 seconds? Did they just immediately leave your website, after disinterest? Or are they scrolling down the page? Are they looking at things, interacting with it? You want to know, did they click to make an appointment? Did they click out on these pages, to go over to your booking software? If you're a restaurant, did they click to make an order, or did they click to a phone call? You really want to track things that are giving you return on investment. One of the main places that you're going to do that is under engagement. This is going to be all the interactions with your website. So clicks, scrolls, that type of thing. Everything that you have set up in here will be tracked under engagement. One of the main places, to start is just going to be what pages they're on. So now this site doesn't have a lot of pages that we're working with right now. So there's really not going to be like a huge detailed information. But if you have multiple pages, especially if it's something retail, you've got multiple products listed here, you're going to quickly see which products dump to the top are getting most traffic. You're going to see also, what pages are being visited the most. So you can get an idea of your service-based industry, what services are most popular, which one should we lean into. Another great thing to use this for is, if I'm going to update my website and I don't have a lot of time, what pages should I concentrate on? So, if you've got 10 minutes, you want to jump in there and update some imagery, you can go down here and look at your top 5 pages and see what those are. Update those, because that's what most of your users are going to see. That's where most of them are interacting. Another great place that we can really gauge what these engagements are is right here under events. This is really going to be key. These are all the interactions with your website. So I'm going to extend this down really quickly so we can see all of them. So as you can see, we set up a recent one, call from site. Why? Because that's return on investment for them. So if someone comes to this site, they go and they click around, want to figure out who they are, come down here, click on the phone number. We're going to track that. We're going to make sure that we're seeing that information come through. Why? Because we want to know, not only are they, where did they come from, but let's say you want to add in here and you want to see where that traffic came from. So you can come down here, session source medium. We're now able to scroll down and say, okay, let me see. Excuse me, a little bit further, but we've got to find that click to call. So now you can scroll down here find your call from site. Okay, that one came through Google Organic. You got several calls through Google Organic. So you can really get an idea of where they're coming from. If you, you've got user engagements from Facebook, so you can see if you have calls specifically from Facebook. You can narrow this down to make it easy for yourself too, using the search area. Anything you type in here, it will then limit to. So it's a quick find. You can see direct, organic, where those calls are coming from. Later on when we have Google Ads campaigns or Facebook campaigns and we're boosting posts, we're able to quickly see, are those getting conversions for us, real world investment for us back on the website? Is someone actually interacting? Are they booking? Those types of things. So
Yeah,
really getting an eye.
Can I point out something really quickly?
Yeah, go ahead, son.
Morning, everyone. Yeah, one of the things here, I think for the small businesses in particular, because they, often focus on social, and when they get traffic and impressions and clicks through from Facebook ads and Instagram Reels and such, you can obviously then come through here and filter down to that level to see if that engagement on the social channels go beyond just, the click through. Are they actually booking appointments, calling you, hitting your contact form? So that's a great level of reporting just to see whether or not the social is actually converting.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, really gives you great detail into your marketing, just in general, where the posts that you're doing, are they working? Are they successful? So kind of already skipped this one, a little bit of event tracking. And then finally, if, custom reporting, I think this is something that can be hugely beneficial. It can be a little bit of a pain getting set up, just realistically. If you're not super familiar with these kinds of platforms, it can be, a little bit overwhelming to come in here and set up a report. But the great thing is once you have it set up, that's it. Like it's set up forever. So this could be your one-stop shop to see really quickly the exact information that you want. You can set these up completely. It's completely freeform. So you can drag and drop and move stuff around, which is great. Now, if this is overwhelming for you, there is an easier one, pretty significant. It's right here under reports. So if you click under reports and you're looking at your report snapshot, this is probably going to be more beneficial to most people if you don't like looking at spreadsheets and that type of stuff. And these are all able to be edited. So if you come up here and click on this little customize report, and let's say you don't like this one, you're not getting a lot of data here from the real time, you pop that one out, pop out this insights, stuff that you don't want. And if you want to add cards, you simply come down here, and they have a lot of pre-built ones. So you can come through and look at here if you want demographic information, or you want to see what channels they're coming from, like I mentioned before. You could change that. You can even change it to source medium. So you could have that popping up right here on your home screen for you. That way you don't have to dig into the reports every time. You can have a real quick one-stop shop. And then if you want to dive deeper, then you have that option as well. But this can be really great for just helping save time. You jump in here, all the information is going to be front and center for you. So that kind of leads into just the beginner kind of touching base with really some of the main reports that you're going to want to focus on in analytics, some that I think are going to give you the most real world practice with, that you'll be able to use and take that information and actually make it relevant to your business. We're going to dive a little bit above the beginner now. We're going to go into some intermediate. So we're also going to take a pause here to answer any questions.
Thanks, Brendan. Yeah, I did have one question from the chat. What was the name of the free app again, and how do you get it?
Yeah, Google Analytics. Sure. So it's sorry, let me get back to this. So it's Google Analytics 4. And if you go to analytics.google.com, it should pop up for you and walk you through creating an account. So it'll ask you for stuff like your website URL, name of your business, that type of thing. And even what type of business. So if you're retail or if you're services or, what type of industry you're in, and it'll help do some preset settings for you based on your industry, which is awesome.
Okay. So that's Google Analytics 4 overview, and you get on from analytics.google.com, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we're ready to move on.
All right. So the questions we had there. All right, cool. So we're going to dive a little bit deeper into making sure that everything is set up correctly. So this is really key. All that reporting is great, but it's all really useless if it's not set up correctly. So the initial setup, where it can be a little complicated, a little time consuming to most people, we're going to jump in here, try to make it really simple, really simplistic for you. Highlight just the main things that I think are going to be really important for most users. And then really just leave it where I think you can use AI and a couple of other tools if you don't understand to help, help fill in the gaps as well. So what we recommend is Google Tag Manager. Google Tag Manager kind of works hand in hand with Google Analytics, but really expands what analytics can do. So Google Tag Manager would be a code snippet that you'd install on your website also. It would be a one-time installation, so you might have to contact your webmaster, or if you have access to your backend, you can install it that way as well. So it's a one-time installation. You get it on your website. And the cool thing is that you never have to worry about going to bug your web manager again or having to go in and mess with the code on your website to change tracking. You can do it in the Google Tag Manager interface and not have to worry about messing up the code on your website or anything like that. So once Google Tag Manager is set up, you can log into it, you can change tags, you can add tags, you can really change the way that you track how people are moving about your website. So for instance, we talked a little bit earlier about a couple of websites that we're working with. So this is another one, Sandy K here. So this is an old version of her website that we started with when we were initially looking.
Yeah, so this is actually, do you want me to compare the two, Brendan?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is actually a teaser for our October 22nd session that walks through specific AI tools and how businesses can use them directly. So this is actually her. So we're building the case study for this. So this is actually her current site, and then if Brendan can pull up the site that we are using AI to help her build, and this is now her upcoming site that we'll use AI tools to restructure and rebuild for her. So just, helping her with the workflow, color palettes, content, photography, copywriting, everything that she was looking for and she was struggling through. So this is the precursor or prelude to our October 22nd session and showing you how the tools you can use to get a site up and running.
Yeah, so with changing over her site, we also needed to update kind of tracking and things like that as well. So that really and when you come to a site like this, so realistically, we're looking for what brings you return on investment. Yeah, we want to track any and everything just about, but for the main things, as far as your account goes, we want to track what's going to lead to return on investment for you. So that's going to be clicking to make an appointment right off the bat. That's going to be clicking an email send, clicking your phone number. It's also going to be if they click over to the contact page, submit this form, you've got the phone numbers and email here. So if they interact with any of those, I think those are going to be the things for this particular client that would lead to return on investment. So when it comes to setting up and tracking something like that, what does that look like? How does that work? So when you get your Google Tag Manager account, and for this one, it's tagmanager.google.com. So you'll come in here, you'll create an account. When you're done creating the account, it'll give you something that looks like this. It's a bunch of code. This is the code that you'll need to install on your website. So if you're not familiar with that, there are lots of tutorials. If you have a WordPress site, just look up how to do it on WordPress. If you got a Wix, look up how to do it on Wix, or even contact their customer support. A lot of them are really great and can either send you a quick link of how to do it or a quick video or a walkthrough. A lot of them already have that built because it's such a common request. So keep that in mind. Now we're going to dive into some more technical aspects of Google Tag Manager variables. So basically, what are variables? So we're going to kind of dissect this a little bit. So let me split this up so we can do kind of a split view here at the same time. So in Google Tag Manager, you're going to see these things called variables. You're going to come down here. Now, when you come to configure, initially, there's going to be maybe 5 here that are turned on, 5 or 6. Now, I recommend first thing you do when you get to Google Tag Manager, come here, click configure, and turn all of these on. They just look like a bunch of random things, but basically they're going to be more defined features that we're automatically tracking. It's built in with Google Tag Manager. So now, for instance, any text that's clicked is tracked. So if they come over here, they click on this phone number. Well, that's tracked as a URL because it's a URL. That's tracked as a click text because it's a click text. That's tracked as a click class, a click element. So it's tracked multiple times in multiple different ways, which is great because we're able to look at that data and dissect it in a lot of different ways. So it's really just making sure that whatever link they click on, whatever they interact with, is more easily able to be recognized, as well as video interactions. So you want to see, let's say they will only watch 70% of your video and then they turned it on. Well, you'd want to know that. You want to know where the average person stops in your video, that type of thing. You want to know if they're scrolling down the page, actually reading articles or not. Are they finishing the articles? Are they scrolling down and looking at all the content that's on the page, those types of things. So these are really easy built in. You simply just check the boxes and then we'll add them here. Now, another thing that I recommend you do right off the bat As soon as you get into Google Tag Manager, so also scroll down here and you're going to have user defined variables. Now there's going to be nothing here. So you'll want to click this new button. Now, the one thing that you'll want to set up, and this is the reason we're going to set this up, is your Google Analytics 4 code. And that is because you're going to have to go look it up numerous times over and over again, or keep it stored somewhere if you don't put it here. So this just makes it a world easier for you. You're not going to have to come find that number 1,000 times. So when you get in here, it's going to give you multiple options when you click the configuration. So you just click anywhere in that box and it'll give you all the options. You want to ignore most of these are going to be different codes and more, different things. The constant is what we want to find. Now, the constant is something that just never changes. So regardless of what the other tags and things on the site tell it to do, this will never change. So whatever value you put in here will be consistent. Now, the value that we want to use is you're going to come down here in any analytics account. In the bottom left-hand corner, you'll see a admin and a gear symbol. You click on that, and it will bring you to a page that looks similar to this. You want to look under data collection and find data streams. You can also find it in the middle as well here under data collection modify. You can click either one, it'll take you to the same place. This is where you'll see your data stream that you're using, which is your Google Analytics data stream. It's basically how information is fed into your account. What you're going to want to do is look for this number here when you click into it. So it'll start with a G and a bunch of other random numbers afterwards. You want to copy that, bring it over here into Google Tag Manager, and throw it right here. You can name it. I recommend something like GA4, so you know what it is, and then your business name. That's it. Then you save that, and that'll be saved there forever. Now I'm going to discard it here because I already have it here, but as you can see, it's set up. And once you start linking it to other things, it'll actually tell you what it's being used. So you can see this is being referenced to my call from site that I have set up. This is being referenced to my contact form submissions because those are all going to be recorded back on Google Analytics. So as you start to use it, you'll see how everything ties together. Now, I hope too many of your eyes aren't glazing over after that. I know that was a little bit technical. Definitely understand that. And but now we're going to get into a couple of other pieces that I think are going to really expand this and open it up for you and help to connect the pieces. So if your eyes are starting to glaze over, hold on for a couple more slides. I promise I'm going to put this all together and help it make sense. So we talked about the built-in variables. Now we're going to talk about what those variables work with, and that's two things: tags and triggers. So tags and triggers are basically the action that someone does on your site, and then the tag that is fired to Google Analytics as far as a record. So for instance, me and Son were talking about a good analogy for this. I don't think there's a perfect analogy for it, but I think the closest thing that we could come up with would be a user placing an order at a restaurant to a server, and then that server going back to the kitchen to place the order. I think that's the most relevant one because they're on your website, they fulfill that action, and we send that data over to Google Analytics so it's tracked and useful for you. That's done through two things: tags and triggers. So I'm going to break this down. I'm going to walk through two setups, two simple ones that we actually did our setup, and this will be very similar to how you would want to do it. So phone calls are going to be relevant for a lot of business types, so that's one of the ones we'll focus on. And then the second one we'll set up will be form submissions. So when it comes to phone calls, they'll be a little different depending on if you have multiple calls on your website, but we'll get to that in a second. If you just have one phone number on your website and you want to track calls to that, it's really simple. You're going to come in here and click the new button and tag the trigger configuration. So let me back up. Let me make sure you're under triggers here because I think I did skip that. So click on triggers here, new. For trigger configuration, you want to go down here and look at just links because that's what we're tracking. We're tracking someone that's clicking a link. It just happens to be a telephone link this time. So now we don't want to track all links. We just want it to be some links. And the reason that we added in all those variables before is because now they're usable. So now all those variables that we clicked before to add, we don't have to go create. They're just automatically built in here. So what we want to track is when someone clicks a specific URL. So they're clicking a specific URL. Now that URL contains or starts with, we could do either one here. I like contains personally, in case there's an extra space or something in there on accident. You're good. Now every telephone number will start with a tel. You don't see it here, but if you come here and right click it and click inspect, it will actually, I'm going to make this a little bigger. So you'll see here the telephone number actually starts with TEL : and then the phone number. So every clickable phone number is going to start with that. That's just what identifies to your website that it is a clickable telephone number. So that'll launch your Skype app, or you're on your telephone, it'll launch your mobile dialer, those types of things.
We'll clarify that every telephone number on your site should have tal : but oftentimes we do find businesses set up their phone numbers without that information in there. So
Correct.
something to remember also is that you have to update that code for the phone numbers.
Yeah, so if you look at your site and this is not clickable, if it's just a number here, then that means it doesn't have the tel at the beginning. You want to make sure you add that. But yeah, so basically you add that tel in here. For the trigger names, again, I recommend naming everything really simplistically so you know what it is. So this would be a click, and it would be a click to call. And yeah, you could fix that spelling, but yeah, so then you'd save that. Now I'm not going to save as I already have this created, but as you can see, it's the exact click URL, contains tel, click, call from site. Just name things simply so you know what they are. No reason to confuse yourself. Now that doesn't do anything by itself, but we needed that trigger so that we can go over to tags so that we can actually choose what we want to track. So that trigger is just going to fire off the tag that we create. So basically now we need to tell it, what do we want to fire over to Google Analytics? So what do we want to tell Google Analytics happened? Well, for tag configuration, so we are sending it over to Google Analytics. There are a lot of other ways to use Google Tag Manager and a lot of other platforms that you can send things to. So we're just scratching the surface here today. But you want to stick in Google Analytics GA4 event. So when you click into this event, it's the first thing it's going to ask you for is that measurement ID. We do not have to go find it because we created a variable called GA4 and your business name. So you plug that in and boom, we do not have to go find that. So that's what I meant by you don't have to track this number down over and over again from your analytics account. It's here forever now, and we'll use it multiple times. When it comes to event name, this is very important because this is what you're going to see when you jump back over to analytics. So for instance, if you jump back over to analytics here, bear with me, and you come down to engagement and events like we were at earlier, this is exactly what you're going to see. So call from site. The reason that we're seeing that is because that is what is going to be used here. So call from site. Whatever you name it here will show up in analytics. So that's what it'll be called. So name it something that's easily recognizable for you, like purchase if it's a purchase, form submission if it's a form submission, call from site if it's call from site. Really, it's just going to make it easier on you at the end of the day. The other thing is don't use spaces in these. Use underscore, use dashes. Those are fine. Do not use spaces, just some technical issues you'll run into later. Now, when it comes to, so that's the tag. That's what we're firing. That's what we're telling it to fire. An event, call from site. Now, we have to link it to that trigger that we created earlier. So if you click here, you'll see triggers, and click call from site is the trigger we just created a few minutes ago. So we link it to that. That's set up.
And Brendan, this is where if they have a Teams page or a directory where they had different phone numbers or email addresses, even they could send it over to Google Analytics and said, oh, they emailed, or this is a call for Lindsay, or this is an email to Ryan. So you can be specific of who they're trying to reach out to, so you can understand which one of your services or your team members are getting more of the traffic.
Yeah, exactly. So let me break that down a little bit more. What are you saying? So basically, let's say that you have multiple phone numbers on your site. Okay, so, and let's just say this was, to Jim's line. Jim is one of your lines. So you put call for Jim, and instead of using that, general overall call from site, we'd want to change up that trigger. So take this one off, and we can create a different trigger. So, and this one would be similar, just like we did before, some links. We do the URL contains, we do tel, and then whatever his phone number is, so that it's tracking each number independently. So then if we have another one for Jessica and she's getting a call and her number's different, then we'd set up a different trigger for that. So then each person could have their own trigger, their own identifier, and that's going to show up here in your analytics account as call for Jim, call for Jessica. So you can know who's getting calls, where that traffic's coming from. Again, it all leads back to analytics. So it'll break it down more specifically for you when it comes to those. But for this one, if you're just tracking one phone number, the tel link is totally sufficient. There's no reason to do all the rest. It's only if you have multiple phone numbers. And again, when it comes to naming here, it's an event. So we'll just call it event. And what is it? It's call from site. So really again, just name everything to make it easy for you. Save. I'm not going to, since I already have it here. event, call from site. And you can see it's the exact same setup that I mentioned before. Now, once you do that, you'll think that you're good to go. Not necessarily. None of that will actually be active on your site until you click submit. So you want to come up here, click submit. What's great is you can give it a version name. So you can say added events, and you could say added call from site, and then you hit publish, and that'll stay there and it'll show you. So then the great thing is if you do something that you didn't like and you broke it somehow, you broke your call from site event, it'll actually keep these as versions saved here. So you can go back to a previous version of it and load that up, and it'll restore that version and fix all your mistakes. So if they're all named, and then you can go back to specific ones. So that was a general quick setup of your phone number or how to track click from calls. The next thing that we want to track here really quickly, this is the wrong version of the site, excuse me. Here it is. So the next thing we'd want to track is something like a form submission. This is going to be pretty popular for most websites, is that form submission. So again, you can do this either order, create the tag or the trigger first. I like to create the triggers first, just preference. But you come in here again, so plus new trigger, and for this one, trigger configuration, form submission. So it's already built in. A lot of these things are built in, which is great. Now, if you only have one form on your site, great. You can just probably do all forms. I would still double check just to make sure, because even if something's not technically called a form, it can look like a form to the back end of your website. So this can get you a lot of stuff that you might not necessarily want. If you want to be specific on which form, there's a lot of different ways to do it. I'm going to break that down for you. Click some forms. Now, this is where you can also use ChatGPT to help out a little bit if you're not sure. So like I said before, if you come into a website and you click it and click inspect, it will actually show you the code for that website. Now, if you're looking at this code, you don't know what's what. As you hover over it, you'll see how it's selecting on the left-hand side what I'm hovering over. So even if I don't know where that piece of code is, well, here it is. It's right here. Now, as I hover over this, you'll see the whole form is highlighted. So this is the form in general, and you actually see here it says form. So for this one, it's really easy because it happens to have a form ID. I come across a lot of websites that do not have a form ID, so you might have to go with the class or name or any other different things in here. If you're not sure, simply click on this section and copy it. You can come over here into ChatGPT and you can throw this in here and say, this is a form on the site. How would I go about tracking it via GTM? And it'll take a second, and it should give you a full breakdown of exactly how to set it up and all the steps, which is great. So while that's doing, I'll check back in on this in a minute because it'll take a second to think through. But for our particular circumstance, which is great, so we already have the form. We already know it already has a form ID. So if a form ID or form class, those two things make this simple. You simply click into here. We're going to copy that form ID. We're going to come over here, and if you scroll down, those variables that we set up earlier, one of them is actually form ID. So we don't even have to do anything. It's built into the system, equals, and we're going to paste that form ID in there. And that's it. So now anyone that submits this form, it will be only that form tracked as a trigger. So for these, again, name them easy for you. Form submission, and it is the contact form. And you save that. So real quick, easy form submission trigger. Again, I'm not going to save it because I already have one. Let's see here, same thing, form equals contact form 121. Now, again, that trigger does nothing by itself. You've got to link it to a tag so that it sends the information over to Google Analytics. So coming back over here to tags again, you'd want to create a new tag. And we're going to go through almost the exact same steps: tag configuration, Google Analytics, and Google Analytics GA4 event again. So when you click on this, again, we don't have to find that measurement ID again because we already have it as our GA4 variable. So boom, that's there. And this one's just going to be contact form submission, or whatever you can even just call it contact form account, whatever you want to call it. and we go to select that trigger, well, we already have that form submission contact form trigger, so we'd select that. And that's set up now. All you have to do is name it. So this would be event and contact form submission, or whatever you want to name it to make it easy, and save. So again, I've already got that set up. You can see it here, event, contact form submission, same exact setup. So this is how it works. On the back end, again, you want to submit after you do all that. Otherwise, you did nothing. If it's not submitted, it's just sitting here, not recorded. Once you submit, now you're questioning, did I do all that correctly? You know, am I sure about everything that was set up? Am I sure about that everything is going to be tracking on the back end correctly? Well, there's an easy way to test that, and it's built into the platform, which is great. So bear with me here as I pull this up. All right, so now I'm going to use Google Tag Manager, or excuse me, Google Chrome for this. And the reason is on Firefox, I have a lot of ad blockers and cookie blockers. So you want to test those on, if you do have cookie or ad blockers set up, you will want to either turn those off or switch to a different one for testing. Now, when it comes to testing this, so we're going to use Syndicate again. You just simply come up here, everything's set up. So you click preview, and that's going to take you to what is known as the tag assistant. So you'll plug the URL in here and hit connect. It'll take just a few seconds. It'll load up that page for you, and it'll say tag assistant is connected. So what this is doing is it's basically a testing ground for you to go around, click on things, and make sure that they're recording correctly without it affecting your analytics account. So this is simply a test environment that does not record back to analytics, which is great. So what are the things that we set up to track? Well, we set up click to call. So let's find a phone number and let's click it. All right, we don't have to continue all the way through, but now let's see if it worked. It did. That tag fired, and where did it fire? On the link click. So it'll show you what tags fired. Now in the summary, you can see our Google Analytics tag is firing right here on when this link was clicked. It fired off our event call from site and it sent it over to Google Analytics, succeeded. So we know that that worked correctly. Great. So we're still looking at the summary. These have not fired because we haven't committed these actions. So we can jump back over here. Let's check out this form submission. Make sure it's tracking correctly. So we come in here. And all right, so test submission, boom, that fired off. Let's go back and you see contact form submission. Now that one is fired. So we know that that's firing correctly. If you want to see it more specifically, you can click into it. It'll actually tell you what it fired. So event name, contact form submission. The measurement ID, it was sent to the correct GA4 account. We know that it was. So you can see all the things that we set up are firing correctly. They are registering correctly. And just for the heck of it, let's test the email one while we're here. Oh, sorry, go ahead, son.
Can you pause? Can you go back to that page again, Brendan? Something to note here on the left-hand side where it's showing all these events where the window loaded, number 15, scroll depth 16, scroll 17. So these are things that are showing you whether or not the user is even scrolling down throughout your site. So if you have pages that are quite long and lengthy, you know, you can see whether or not users are going through and scanning it and reading it. Also, like where something that comes in handy here is too whether or not videos are played. Oftentimes, you know, business owners would want to say, "Oh, I want to put a video on there," and you'll be able to see whether or not they actually even get plays and such. So that's something that gives you kind of feedback whether or not, you know, people are engaged with that kind of content. So similarly, you can watch for whether or not people are playing videos, how much they get finished, or whether or not they're even scrolling through your website. So you can understand if it's too long or it just needs to be cleaned up as far as content.
Yeah, this gives you an idea of kind of what you look like to the computer, you know, what you look like on the back end. So as you go through and on the website, you're doing these interactions, but this is what's recorded and what it looks like for us on the back end. So yeah, like Sun's saying, all this can be tracked, and these all lead back to the variables that we turned on earlier. So you'll see them in here, like scroll and scroll depth. Those are down here. Those are things that we turned on that are now automatically tracking just because we checked that box and submitted it. So yeah, really great stuff here. And then the last thing that we already have set up, I didn't walk through this setup, but I just want to give you a, you know, show you that this one's working too. I lost too many things open. So you'll see that I just clicked on the email and now that fired too with that link click, which is awesome. So anything you set up, you can test it. If it's not working, another really great thing is, let's say it's sitting down here and it's not fired, you can still click on the tag and see, okay, what is it doing? Or let's say there was a link click that happened and it didn't fire off like you expected, so that means this tag wouldn't be here, it's still down here. Then you can come through and look at it. Okay, what are the variables that are being passed? Because maybe I don't have it set up right. So it'll show you the click URL right here, exactly what that click URL, the click text. So if you aren't sure how to set it up, you can come play around here and test, go back and set up your trigger based off of this information because it literally spells it out for you. So if you're not sure
That
how
might
to
be the
set it up or
advanced
what to
session.
do, yeah, maybe. Yeah, but so you can dive in that way, and now you know that it's testing, and so everything's firing off correctly. Is the main thing that you want to do here. So once you're done, you just stop debugging, and you're set to go. Google Tag Manager is then set up for you, which is awesome. So,
All right. That's great, Brandon. I
uh,
let me take a few
yeah,
minutes here. We got a few questions, and let me just do a quick introduction to San Tran. San Tran is the owner of Pitch Black Media in Ferndale. He has over 25
Morning.
years of experience, and yeah, and he does internet design development over various industry sectors he works in, but he really he's been advising, developing, and executing social and digital strategy across the country of all of his clients, and that's where he really excels. So between San and Brendan, we have two great experts here.
We're
So let me get,
dangerous.
yeah, and just another. I want to make sure everybody knows on October 22nd, 3 weeks from now, we have a live digital marketing workshop, the continuation of the series. And the main speakers are going to be San and Brendan, again from Pitch Black. They're going to talk about the use of artificial intelligence in your business, something everybody needs to know. And we're really excited about this. So please register. I think we could, maximum we can hold in that facility that we're using is about 75 people. So register quickly. It's open now. You should have gotten an email with the registration. Okay. So let me get a couple questions here for San and Brendan. Um, can a nonprofit startup utilizing a GA4?
absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, that's what I
Actually,
thought. So
there are more benefits for them, so you can look into this as well. But if you're a 501(c), Google actually has a grant program where they'll offer you $10,000 a month in Google grant ad spend. So look into that. It's just an application process that you go through to get that. There are a lot of rules and hoops and stuff, so like make sure you do your research. But yeah, it's a great program that they offer.
okay, great. Second question here. Says I'm a bookkeeper. About 25% of my business comes from Google search. I have $50 a monthly budget for pay per click. I get weekly emails showing impressions. Up until about a month ago, I was getting 3,000 plus impressions. Now I am getting 97. Any change with Google? She wants to know.
Yes, always. Google's always
Okay.
changing. They never sit still, always updating. I would say one of the main things uh, that we talked about actually today is the event tracking. Your events can actually feed in directly into your Google Ads platform. They tie together. So basically, if you tie your analytics and your Google Ads together, and I can actually give you a quick show you where that's done. But if you go down here into product links, so you're in the admin area of your Google Analytics account and go to product links, there's actually a spot for Google Ad links. And you can link it to your Google Ad account if you have one specifically for this. And then what's great is you can send through conversions. So like those click to call, those form submissions, you can send those to your Google Ad account and tell your Google Ad account, like, this is what we want to shoot for. We want these conversions. So then it's not just going for clicks and impressions, but it's going for actual conversions for you, which is phenomenal. Like it changes the way that your Google Ads account can market. So I would concentrate more on conversions in the account than clicks, impressions, anything else. Just, bottom line, how many dollars do you have to spend to get someone on, to get a phone call or to get a form submission or to get a purchase? Those are the
Okay.
things that are going to be really
Well,
good.
that improve their ranking too, Brendan, as
Yes,
far as like
absolutely.
what it tracks. Yeah. So that's the main reason there. So Google likes to, when they get users into any of their properties, likes to keep them on the property, but then also they want to be helpful to users who come and search for it, right? So if a user clicks on your ad and then goes to your website and does a lot of things that are considered conversions, Google will say, oh, that ad was useful, or that business is useful. It's connected to my user who was looking for bookkeeping, and the person went through and did a call to the site or a contact form. Google's going to take those indicators as that's a good site to send traffic to.
Yeah. And I'm
Right.
sorry, you guys have heard us say conversions multiple times today. That's being renamed to key events. So you can actually see that warning up here. Conversions would be. So that's just something we're not used to saying again yet. So you'll hear us say
We're old
conversions
school.
multiple times. Just think key events, because everything that Google is going to refer to from here on out is going to be, they're going to call it key events. So conversions are key events.
Right.
Just keep that in mind. That's a brand new change. So
That's a good point. I just want to remind everybody, this presentation is being recorded and we will be sending it out. So when you receive it in a few days, you could review it and then go over it again slowly to grasp all the concepts that were discussed today. Okay, another question from Joe. He says, what AI tools did you use to help redesign the website on that example that you were using?
Oh, you got to come to the 22nd. We actually did. So we picked a guinea pig, Sandy, and then also Jess from Revelation. So we're building several different tools, but ChatGPT was a key one for the copywriting, and we actually shaped it to her content and her voice, but then picked certain celebrities, if you will, to tweak the tone of that voice. And then we use ZipWP is one of the site builders we use. And so on the 22nd, we'll actually show you how you can use it and get up just to that version of the site and launch if you want. But we did customization for her also, so that we use some color theory sites that would, because she didn't have a digital style guide where it identified color palettes or fonts. So we use some AI tools to identify the type of audience that would go to a therapist site. So they picked its a selection of color theories, and then we use an AI generator to generate a color palette for her to review. She approved them, and then some font tools that also does AI font pairing matching for readability and kind of communication. And then I can't remember that name off the top of my head. And then, so we developed a digital style guide for her. She did the approval, and then we applied all that to the site redesign. But I think we have also, there's form automations. We're going to be, I think, walking through AI tools that build and create links for you, generate draft emails based on contact form submissions too. So a lot of the stuff that takes a bit of time away from you as a business owner, that we can get to a point where it automates and simplifies that workflow for you, so that it is just minutes a day versus, sometimes it is the hours a day that you
QuickBooks
are.
integrations too. I think somebody
Yeah.
mentioned QuickBooks earlier. So, exporting it from a platform and auto importing it into QuickBooks, or auto event scheduling, or booking appointments automatically. Like, AI is wildly useful and robust.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay, I have another question here. Is there any proof or numbers that show a template-driven site versus a hand-coded site score any better within search engines? So let me repeat it again. Is there any proof or numbers that show a template-driven site versus a hand-coded site score any better within search engines?
There are so many small pieces to that
Yeah.
inside of that question that it's almost, yeah. So you think speed test would be a good spot for that?
Speed test would be, so yeah, there are a couple, and the hand coded is a little bit of a loaded definition, or because back in the day when you talked about hand coded, it was just cleaner and it made the site a lot faster. So, but now these days the tools are where you can start from a template and refine stuff, and the code is much cleaner and faster. So where the benefit of a hand coded site is no longer there. But hand coded meaning that if they are taking into consideration more, going into more details about what you who you are as a business, who you're trying to reach, and the time is spent more laying out the content in the site to better match or better to convert users. That's a little different definition of a hand coded. Where we do find, and Brendan's going to go to this, is like the earlier tools where they're built off of templates like Wix and stuff like that. Their site was really, really slow. And Wix was building stuff that sometimes it took like 26 seconds to load or longer. So they've gotten better. So, but sometimes the website builders for those templates, they are just way too slow and they're not actually optimized for SEO. So it depends on the builder that you're using. So, but if you take the same care of like setup for like SEO, page speed, and design to the user, you could use a template and it'd be just as good.
Yeah,
But there are all the technical considerations behind what a template is and what a hand coded site is.
yeah, there are good templates and bad templates for sure.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind too. There's like some that just have a lot of wasted code just sitting there. And really
Yeah.
how you can test it is this page speed insights is a great platform. So I'll test Sandy's old version of her website.
Yeah,
so
and this is I think the newer Squarespace, right? She's on Squarespace here. I can't remember.
yes, I believe so. So yeah, it'll go through. It might take a minute, but it'll go through, and then I'll give you mobile and desktop performance and a score number based off of 100.
Yeah, this is I think where some business owners, some smaller business owners, they're not aware of this, but the amount of time it takes to load and the performance of it, and as far as speed. So, some business owners, the site ends up going like 20 something seconds, right? Or more. And then users, if you think about your own usability, you're going to not wait for that, right? Just a bad experience. So,
Yeah,
page speed is something to pay attention to, as far as that, that being an impact on your traffic.
yeah. A lot of times it's going to be images, videos that aren't properly, scaled down. But if you aren't sure, you can come here and just basically hand this off to your web developer. It's got all the, issues written out on what they can reduce, what they can fix to help speed up the website and to help it score better. Basically, so this is 4.8. You want this under 3 seconds. So ideally, this is just under 3. So anything you want those load times under 3 seconds is where you're going to get your best results. And that's mobile. So desktop's performing a little bit better. So yeah, you can get an idea for those on desktop versus mobile. If that answers the question.
Mhm. So again, let me remind, we have a few more minutes left. All questions, just put in the chat. If we have any last questions, we only do questions by chat. And so you can type that in right now. Let me also just say that here at Oakland, Main Street, Oakland County, we're very devoted to helping economic vitality for small businesses in our towns and villages and cities. And so we put on these digital marketing programs so you can get the knowledge and the confidence to move forward in your small business. We want to see all small businesses succeed because they are the lifeblood of vitality in these towns and villages. It's very important that you do well, and we want you to stay in business. All right. So any last questions, please put in the chat here. I'm looking.
George, if the nonprofit wants to reach out to Brendan and myself, we can help direct them to the grant application and the process they need.
Right. You can definitely look up Pitch Black Media in Ferndale and get a hold of Brendan and San. They very much are, they partnered with Main Street America here, and they've done quite a few programs with us over the last few years. We're very grateful to have them as our partners. So I think that's it. I'm not seeing any last question here. And so it's 9:57. Any closing remarks for San or Brendan?
No, just
one question, Lindsay, is that a dog paw or a cat paw? I kept on seeing it pop up in frame, like.
Oh, I got one here. One quick question. Do the search terms need to be updated manually?
Search like SEO search terms on the website for metadata. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, you'll need to update those and Google Search Console. If you, I don't really have time to go over what all that is, but you can create one really easily and link it to your website too. And it gives you, it links to your analytics and gives you way more organic
Yeah, it's a different session, but yeah,
traffic.
that's something
Yeah.
that, yeah.
So Google Search Console, ask ChatGPT about it. It can give you a lot of
Okay.
background information on what it is.
Very, very good. And so I think we're going to wrap it up here again. Thank you for attending. Our digital marketing series will continue with a live workshop on October 22nd at the Lookout Lodge in Waterford. Again, it'll be on artificial intelligence and how to use it in small business, not only to increase profits, but also to increase your efficiencies. So a lot of times the small business owners wearing many hats. And if AI can take over some of those tasks, so you can do more important tasks, that's you're saving time and efficiencies and results in higher profits. So it's a great program. I wish that everybody could attend. So register as soon as possible. Again, after 75 seats are filled, we can't allow any more in. Okay. Then also on November 12th, we're going to have another virtual workshop with Teresa Hager, who did our first live workshop on September 24th. She's going to talk about Google tools that you could use, but also it's not just about the tools, it's about what about the mindset of the small business owner? How do you use these digital marketing tools? What do you have to really do to get over the fear and the lack of knowledge to try these new things to advance your business forward? So that's going to be a real interesting program too, virtually on November 12th. Okay. So thank you for attending. God bless, and we'll see you guys again soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you everyone for your
Yeah.
time.